Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks Best Country, 105.1 The Bull.
Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. If anybody in this town knows holiday food trends, it is Executive Chef Aaron Gregory from SGC Foodservice. I'm actually overlooking their Culinary Center on West Battlefield, which is so impressive. Aaron, I want to talk to you about party food because at this very moment we're heading into Christmas. We passed Thanksgiving. What are people wanting these days in terms of the good old indulgent party food?
Lots of shareables. Everybody's looking for that item that we can put out on a buffet, we can do a nice tray of. I would say traditions are things that are very important, but they change throughout the years. So we may have had raspberry, now we're looking for raspberry chipotle, mango habaneros, things like that, that we can use small flavors and put it on a charcuterie board, or maybe put it with shrimp cocktail and do something that's not traditional. Some of the things I like to do is play with cocktail sauce. So I may take plum and wasabi and make a cocktail sauce out of it. And it's a way to introduce new flavors to maybe those palates that are a little particular. We can slowly introduce it without scaring them away, right? So I think creativity, but staying close to the traditions and adding new flavors by doing just small dips, small glazes, things like that really broaden a menu and make it fun. And color. I think color is a big piece of it, right? When I go to a party, I'm always going to go towards that vibrant colors, whether it's cranberry sauce, whether it is, an orange, maybe it's something like a pimento dip, right? But how do we think of a different way to do it? Maybe it goes on sliders as opposed to just sitting in a bowl somewhere.
Charcuterie's never going to go out of style, is it?
Absolutely not. If you think about it at its base, what is charcuterie? It's a cheese board, it's summer sausage. We can call it a lot of fancy things, but it's just putting smoked meats, cheese on a board, whether that's antipasto trays where we're using olives, grilled artichokes, oven roasted tomatoes. It all kind of falls under that same thing. And it's shareable, where lots of people can get a lot of different flavors. And again, color, right? It drives us to that. We eat with our eyes. We see something beautiful. We're going to go towards that.
The diversity of a good charcuterie board is what draws me in. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to that, and I'm not a food snob, but in this respect, I don't just want slices of cheddar and Monterey Jack and Ritz crackers. No shame against any of those things. I want different flavors of dips. I want different textures of crackers. I want different colors and sizes and shapes of olives.
Absolutely.
And nuts and things like that, right? I just want a diversity of all the things.
100%. And you want to be your own chef, right? As you're sitting down, you can put that mango jam on there. Maybe it's something boring like cheddar, which I absolutely love. I'm the guy that goes for the cheddar, but I'm going to take that and I might put an onion bacon jam on a lavash cracker and do something just a little bit different, savory, sweet. I think of us folks around the Ozarks, we kind of love savory and we love sweet, and we love them together. And sometimes they can be a little scary, but bacon jam hits all those notes. Super, super, super delicious. Those are the things that people love and crave, and then it sets everything up for whatever that meal is going to be. What the entree is going to be, whether it's a buffet, it's a carving station. It's a great way to get all these small flavors to get us ready for that main entree.
I took a dip to a party the other night, and it was sort of a cream cheese base, and it had cheddar and bacon. And, of course, you mix all of this up, and I found in my pantry a jar of like a cranberry chipotle jam that somebody gave me from Osceola cheese. And I was over the top because I love cranberry. And you heat that after you get the dip all bubbly and pour it over the top. And man, there you go with that spicy but sweet and savory at the same time. It's just magical.
Yeah, it's that sweet heat, right? And while you're taking that cranberry and you have that cream cheese, which is savory, but it's also a great binder. Maybe you whip it cold and you take your favorite chicken breast and you do a stuffed chicken breast with it. And you're getting those seasonal, beautiful flavors, delicate. And it's a great way to introduce cranberry to somebody that didn't like it. You know, you get a lot of people, it was grandma, she opened it up, dumped it in a can. Some people really love that, some don't. So it's a great way to introduce it with different flavor profiles. You know, Brussels sprouts is one that as a kid, I didn't like them because I'd only had the canned ones. Now you deep fry them, balsamic glaze, shaved Parmesan, and some bacon, and I am in heaven. So those are the things that we all love now, but you hear the same story over and over again. Didn't like Brussels as a kid, love them as an adult because, you know, what's not to love? Deep fried, sweet balsamic, bacon, hard to beat.
It's funny you bring up Brussels sprouts. I cannot remember who I was talking to on a previous episode of Savor the Ozarks about Brussels. They used to be, I think, kind of the butt of jokes.
100%.
Oh, my family always made me eat my Brussels sprouts. I hate those things. Well, now they're on appetizer menus all over the country. They're a topping on different dishes. You may pay an upcharge to get them. What has happened?
We learned how to make them delicious. We took them away from grandma, not to pick on her, but in the cans where they weren't very good. And now we're roasting them fresh. We're oven roasting them. You got that air fryer at home, throw them in the air fryer. You can get some delicious flavors. Maybe you have a little bit of truffle oil or a nice pan spray. It's not hard. They're easy to work with. They hold really well too. So you got a bunch of people coming over for that Christmas Eve party. You can roast those bad boys off, hold them in a warm oven, and you're not having to worry about cooking them to scratch. And I think we've learned to take foods that we did not love, and we found a flavor profile and made it new again, right? We're not inventing new foods per se, we're just inventing new ways to use them, right? So we figured, again, sweet heat, that savory, that works really well, and Brussels sprouts just happen to be the vessel that we deliver those flavors with.
Well, God bless whoever did it first, because I never bought them. I never bothered with them. And then I started having them in restaurants, and I'm like, I see them at the store, they're fresh, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a chef, but I take them and I might slice them in half, Absolutely. Toss them with olive oil, salt, and pepper, and like you said, put them in the air fryer and burn them up. I want them, my husband and I want them crispy. We eat them like popcorn.
Absolutely. You know, think about it. That's a great way. If you can put it on popcorn, you can put it on a Brussels sprout, right? Put that favorite barbecue seasoning, maybe Togarashi, a Japanese barbecue rub. There's all kinds, 5 spice. There's all kinds of cool things. And again, I look at those things as a vessel to introduce new flavors into my cuisine, into the restaurants that we work with here. When I was a chef, you know, I would always take something that people knew and introduce a new flavor, like gochujang or gochujaro, which is a fermented Korean paste. Those are things you can introduce with a Brussels sprout, right? We could do a quick dip. Once again, use the cream cheese. We're dipping some Brussels sprouts in there. It's delicious.
Okay, for all the home cooks at home, you threw out something a minute ago. I think you said something about like a plum jam, add some habanero to it. Give me some tips on what people can do with, they think, oh my gosh, the family's coming. I don't know what I'm going to do. What's something you can do to put a new and an interesting twist on something maybe you've made in the past, but how can you change it up?
Cook the way you know to cook. You know, so if you're comfortable making mashed potatoes, make the mashed potatoes, but if you want to add, you know, white Vermont cheddar or maybe green hatch chilies, you can always, my rule is I can always add more. It's harder to take away. So add the green hatch chilies into your favorite whipped potato with some pepper jack cheese and then taste it. And then if you want more heat, add more heat. You want more sweet, add more sweet. I do a lot of ratios when I'm cooking. So if I'm using let's say your favorite pre-made barbecue sauce and I want to make it bourbon barbecue with blackberries, I will take 2 parts of barbecue to 1 part of maybe a reduced bourbon and a cup of blackberries that I've reduced down, mix them together. I'm not having to have 25 different ingredients. That's a speed scratch is what we call that in the industry. And we can take something delicious like an already pre-made barbecue sauce and then make it our own by adding that blackberry, that bourbon, whatever it is you have in the kitchen to make it unique and make it your own. And like I said, I usually start with a 2 to 1 ratio. If I want it a little spicier, and if I want to back it down, I might add 3 cups of barbecue sauce, just depending on what your flavor profile is. But always remember, it's harder to take it away than it is to add it.
Like my dad always used to say when he grills a steak, you can't uncook it.
You can't uncook it.
You can cook it more, but you can't uncook it.
Yep.
You know, you give people a really good idea there. And one thing that I love to use for spice is, and not everybody loves it, but horseradish.
Oh, absolutely. I love horseradish. And it's what you're doing with it, right? You know, traditionally we're adding mayonnaise, we're making that horseradish cream, sour cream. One thing that I like to do is I lighter cream, so I'll take heavy whipping cream and whip it like you would whipped cream, and then add a little bit of your Worcestershire lemon juice and make a whipped cream style horseradish sauce. So it's whipped cream as opposed to the mayonnaise, things like that. It's lighter, it's fluffier, it's beautiful. You could put it on a soup. Maybe you have like a bisque or something like that, and just a little dollop of that where you're adding flavors or adding it to, you're doing a sliced roast, you're doing prime rib. It's just a lighter way to do it. Very creamy, very light. Think of it like a whipped cream, but with those horseradish elements.
Oh my gosh, this is why I love talking to you. Aaron, I never would have thought of that. But I whip cream, because I want it sweet to put on top of the pie or whatever.
Absolutely.
I never thought ever about whipping the cream and throwing some horseradish in there. Maybe a little dry mustard.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking of what I add to like my sour cream. I take sour cream, I throw horseradish, a little Dijon, and maybe a little bit of vinegar, salt and pepper. And I almost can't eat pork without it. But whipping it would be and it would be gorgeous.
And it changes the texture, the texture of what you're eating. And I think the most important thing is having the fundamentals when cooking, right? We're grilling, we know how to grill properly, we know how to saute properly, and then that's where all the flavors and the fun comes from. You build on top of it. It's like building a house, right? Yeah. We start with a really strong foundation, then we can put in funky windows and a cool roof and change it all up, put a sunroof in our house, but we have to have a strong foundation to do that. That's what cooking is, right? We start with making stocks, having good beef. When we make pot roast, we want to braise it down. Now all the fun stuff comes from adding those green hatch chilies again in there, or changing it up and adding some root vegetables or parsnips to our pot roast that isn't traditional. Those are things that we have the basics and then we get creative. That's my style of cooking, and I think that's what we like in the Ozarks a lot of the times.
I think people might get a little intimidated. They think, okay, hatch chili, I would love to eat that. I've never bought one. I don't know what they look like. I don't know how to prepare them. Well, that's why the good Lord made the Google. I suppose, because you could just go to ChatGPT or Google or say, what in the heck do I do? How do I cook this thing? So people need to not be afraid, right? And they may even find them in a jar or something.
100%. Your grocery store is your best friend, right? You walk down any aisle, no matter where you go to a grocery store, they're going to have tons of Hispanic, Latin flavors, Asian, Americans, we love all that stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're in a rural grocery store or in the middle of Kansas City or St. Louis, you're going to find something that's going to give it might not be the exact chili that the recipe calls for. And you said it earlier, use Google. What can I use instead of ChatGPT is something I've started using. It's not replacing me as far as being a great chef or a great cook, but it's giving me ideas.
Sure.
It's a constant idea for me to try something new. I may just see 1 or 2 words that influences me to create my own dish, or I may take a recipe straight from ChatGPT, but it's just another tool to get creative and keep those creative juices flowing. And we live in a world now whether it's ordering it online, buying it from your food distributor, going to the store, it's easy to get products in the United States right now.
Our daughter, our youngest, Audrey, is in the culinary program at OTC, and one of the students over there for scallions made this wonderful butternut squash and pear soup. And I said, what's the recipe? And I got pretty much at least the ingredients of the recipe. And so I go buy this butternut squash. No idea what to do with this thing. Absolutely no idea. Well, then I asked my chat GPT, how do I, and it just said, you just poke holes in it, stick it in the microwave, soften it.
Right.
Which I don't know how, outside of an axe or a saw, you would get through that thing on a raw basis. Like, those things are tough. But I also learned in asking that you can find those frozen. You can find
Absolutely.
frozen butternut squash, and the things you can learn and that will cut down your time in making it. And don't be a hero. If you're pressed for time, just go get the frozen and make it. People are not going to not eat it.
You're 100% right. And I would go, being in the food industry, frozen vegetables are 100 times better than they were even 5 years ago. We think about growing up and you had that neon green, whatever peas it was inside of our frozen TV dinner, and we peeled it back, and that made us think that frozen vegetables are bad. One could argue that frozen vegetables are fresher than fresh vegetables. And what I mean by that, if they're pulling them from California, if they're freezing them, they're taking them straight from the field, processing them, individually quick freezing them, and they're coming to you, right? It might be 2 weeks before they arrive from the field to your restaurant. So, you could argue that they are fresher sometimes, and they're great. The processing, the manufacturing, what we're seeing doing with them, something that's very labor intensive, like utilizing a squash, which is very hard, that acorn or butternut squash. They're doing the hard work for you. It goes back to that speed scratch. We're all busy. We're all working full-time jobs. We're taking the kids to the soccer. We're picking them up from acting lessons, all those good things. And sometimes our meals suffer because of it. So just a little bit of planning, a little bit of creative grocery store shopping, and you can have all these items. And that's where I go back to the basics, right? That foundation of utilize it. You know how to make a cream soup. Add that butternut squash in there next time. Puree it. You've got a blender. Take the margarita mix out of it for the evening and put the soup in there and make a beautiful, pureed soup.
You know what I made the other day that blew my mind? A creme fraiche, which is a lot like a sour cream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it said, what was it? Let's see. You take buttermilk. You take heavy cream, put buttermilk in it, and leave it sitting out. Like, leave it sitting out on the counter all night long. I was like, is that safe? Okay. It was some of the best stuff I've ever made.
Absolutely, and you see it a lot in menus where chefs are doing it. And as we were talking earlier, like that horseradish whipped cream, it's a beautiful accompaniment to a soup. Adding it to, some maybe a grilled chicken or something like that. And it's beautiful too. And it's another way that you can add flavor. So you could add tarragon to that creme fraiche, or maybe black truffles or black garlic, things that you don't normally use. Figure out how to kind of whip that in there and get those flavor profiles and those notes. And it's just one piece of the dish. So it's a good way to get somebody to try something like black garlic without scaring them, because it's only just a small part of the dish.
What are these great tips? Absolutely great. I hope all of you who like to cook at home are listening to this. It's fabulous. What about the restaurants that come in here for sort of an ideation session? They need ideas, and I'm sure that before holidays they probably come in here months in advance. And what are some of the things that the consumers are wanting on like a limited time holiday menu?
They're looking for things that are easy to execute. And what I mean by that is they have their full restaurant going. So if they're not a full-time catering company, they're not a hotel, they want to tap into things that are still part of their restaurant, but they can execute. Because a Christmas party is still going to be Friday night when you have a packed dining room, and you have to be able, and your kitchen hasn't gotten bigger just because it's the holiday season. Your staffing is the same, so you have to be able to execute things that hold well. So I often talk about roasted items like a roasted pork loin, a roasted strip loin. Those things only get better as they set, right? So as they rest, they mature, they're going to have a better flavor. So we think about that. Also, quick pickups with something like a crab rangoon, which we love those flavors. We go back to that plum sauce earlier, though, right? We could add plum, we could add cranberry, we could do it more holiday infused. And to answer your question earlier, most people, you're really looking at like the 1st of October to start to create those ideas, source the products, and then create your menu. And, utilizing social media, utilizing your marketing team if you have one, or just your social media to get people to think about caterings coming into your restaurant. So we're at the end of the season of the holidays for us, even though we're a week out from Christmas. That all happened, months ago, right? So if you're 1st of November, you're running a little bit behind the 8 ball, right? It's usually October that we're even, and sometimes even in September. As a chef, I wrote all my holiday menus back in August. Those were things that, because we were working in a larger capacity, those were things that I did. But in your individual restaurants and at your home, I'm planning those menus in October.
Need a part for your fryer, oven, ice machine, or HVAC unit? Arctic Food Equipment has you covered. Hi, I'm Nathan. Our experienced part department helps you find exactly what you need. No guesswork, no stress. From name brand OEM parts to aftermarket specialty solutions, we've got it all. Stop in today at 1501 South Enterprise or give us a call at 417-888-0100.
At Arctic Food Equipment, your success is our business always.
I looked down here in this culinary center and you were explaining how it works, and I just think it's fascinating. You have these monitors up there. So for example, like a restaurateur could come in and you could talk to them about, here's some ideas we have, and you prep it for them. But you can also put up a monitor up there that will show them food cost.
Absolutely.
Because they have to be able to make this work monetarily, or it's just not going to work for anybody. So that's really interesting.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a business. And so with restaurants, we want to put out the best food. Most people that get into restaurants, because they have a heart for hospitality, and sometimes they don't think about the business side. And so that's where we get in and we talk about the cost of the chicken wings and how are they going to market them? How are they going to use them? What are they going to do to be a differentiator? Whether they brine them, they smoke them, they dry rub them, and we have the data to prove it. So we're able to go through, really deep dive into their menu and their operations and give them expert advice to help them make a decision, because at the end of the day, it's still their business. We're a resource to help them. And what I like about the Culinary Center when I was a chef was I was always worried about the dishwasher calling in sick, or I had a sales guy wanting to come talk to me, or somebody's calling me, and I couldn't really focus on the menu. I was busy. When I come into the Culinary Center, I have 2 hours where I'm able to think about my business with my owner, the operator, your general manager, the chef. We're able to hyper-focus for 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it may take, to really deep dive into your business, because restaurants are busy. Your job as a chef is you're kind of a fireman. You're always putting out sometimes literally and sometimes figuratively, putting out small fires, right? You're a little bit of everything to everybody. So it gives you a time to think. And that was what I think I appreciate most about the Culinary Center. It's their time, and I want to be respectful and give them the best ideas that I possibly can that are focused. And prior to them coming in, I'm looking at their Yelp, Google, going online, doing research, having that conversation. So I am as in tune to their business as possible, because I want them to be successful. And that's really, it's the passion of what we do, is we want success and create a good partnership with all of our customers. And then, nothing makes me happier than, hey, I tried that recipe that you suggested and our customers absolutely love it. Can we come in 6 months from now and come up with some new ideas? I'm like, absolutely. That's the success for me. That's what success looks like.
And you said, when we first walked in here, you said something about you can even look at their menu and figure out the menu placement of the item. In other words, if you have the smash burger, you might want to move that over to the other side of the menu because it'll catch an eye and sales might, it might get more attention. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We call that menu engineering. So we want to take a look at the menus and see what's profitable. you go into a restaurant, it's not a coincidence that you see chef special or it's put into a box or it's got a picture next to it. All that drives your eye to traffic where it wants you to go, right? So it's all marketing. So it's helping you decide where you want to eat and what you want to eat. And I think you can narrow menus down using that as well. Sometimes you may have a product that's not selling very well. Get rid of it. It's okay. We don't need 15-page menus. I'm a big fan of do what you do and do it well. You think about the chicken restaurants that are out there. What do they have on the menu? They got chicken strips. Might be able to get it 2 or 3 different ways, but they own that market by doing one thing, and they do it incredibly well.
You mentioned Brussels sprouts, and just a minute ago you mentioned chicken wings. Those are some of the things that I think over the years have really taken hold. I don't think chicken wings are going to go anywhere. And I remember my dad, this is 30 years ago, he'd say, no, nobody ever wanted the chicken wings. That was just a throwaway trash thing. Now people are putting them on the menu front and center, and I think that's just never going to go away.
Your dad was 100% right. It took somebody in Buffalo, New York to make a really, once again, that sweet heat, that savory, that spicy. The proof's in the pudding, right?
Yeah,
or the proof's in the chicken wing. They took a delicious something that was spicy. They put it with a savory blue cheese dressing. And now I challenge you to go find a menu where it doesn't have a chicken wing or doesn't have some sort of Buffalo-influenced item on there. So menus go in cycles. They go in trends. It comes, the cheese stick's never really gone away, but it's morphed into the cheese curd, or it's morphed into a fondue or beer cheese. Yeah. Those things aren't going away. They're just changing, and they come back again. I've been doing this long enough to see trends go up and go down and come back. And you go back to pork belly. 15 years ago, no one knew what pork belly was. Right. Now fast food restaurants have it. They do a pork belly burger. It's cured. It's the cured belly from the bacon. Become very popular, right? And a lot of times it's the economy, like your dad said with the chicken wing. Those were things that might have been just thrown away or thrown into used for stocks. Now it is a center of the plate. People go out. Hey, let's go get beer and wings. It's a great example. It's become a food source.
It has. Another thing I've noticed, kale. Who in the world ever thought about kale until the last, I don't know how long, but now kale is everywhere. When I go, even if I buy a bagged salad kit from Aldi, which, by the way, I love those. I don't always use the dressing, but I just love the way they shave up the lettuce and the kale.
And it's the speed,
it's
right?
delicious, yes.
You talk about those kale mixes. Those are things that if you were to make that at home, you would have to have a head of kale. You would have to have the Brussels sprouts. You'd have to have the red onion, the carrots. Yeah. I can open a bag and have all that for $3 to whatever it may cost, and it's delicious. And I'm the same as you, Joy. I don't use the dressing. I may throw my own dressing in there, what my family likes, throw some dry rubs in there. But kale is a great example where when I started out, kale was for salad bars. Yeah. We put it on the salad bar, and now we are shaving it. We're deep frying it like we do Brussels or fried spinach. We're adding it. That has a lot of health benefits. It also holds up incredibly well. So if we want to add that to a coleslaw, we want to add that to some kind of filler for a salad, it holds well. It has a lot of versatility to it, takes on flavors well, and it's not for the salad bar anymore. It's not just ripping it in half, putting it on a steak as a garnish with an apple ring or a lemon wedge. It has gone full service. We didn't create a new food product. Kale's not new. We just found out creative ways to use it.
And apparently it's healthy. I don't know. I'm no dietitian, but for whatever reason, I have found it to just be delicious. And we mentioned kale, and of course the holiday season is just your excuse to eat anything you want, anytime you want. Party food is everywhere. Drinks are everywhere. It's just fun. And then on about January 2nd, the truth just hits you, and you're like, okay, I can't button my pants comfortably anymore, and I don't feel very good, and I'm ready to get back into my routine. This place has to take a turn because people are saying, okay, I got to get back on my routine. So have you planned ahead for when the bomb drops on the 2nd of January?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have a record-breaking January as far as test kitchen visits goes. We are double booked for the first week. So we come back from vacation and we are nonstop. And it's that, like you said, new year, let's hit the reset button. Let's look at our menus. whether it's healthier items, whether it's better food cost, easier labor, prep, innovation, all of the above. That's why they're coming into the Culinary Center. And everybody's, they've had their time to rest, party, had those cocktails. Now it's time to get back to work. And once again, it's that planning for January to be a successful spring, successful summer. That's really what it looks like. We're planning for the following year. And that plan may change due to food trends, but for the most part, it's going to be a pretty solid yes. So January is our biggest time of the year in the Culinary Center.
And we're all trying to be healthier January 2nd, but about the 5th or 6th, that's over with too. We're back to eating what we want to eat, and we've all got to eat, and we cook at home, and we go out, and it's places like this that make it great. And I want people to understand, and by the way, SGC, which I believe was Springfield Grocery Company.
Yes.
And it's been around, this place has been around for well over 100 years.
Yeah, since 1865. So a lot of customers still call it grocer or Springfield Grocer. SGC was more as we've grown as a company and we've added Tulsa. Tulsa is going to be our new culinary center that opened about 2 weeks ago, and we're also opening a broadline distribution house there, which will be the only full service distribution in Tulsa, which is huge if you think about it. So as we expand as a company, everybody in Springfield knew Springfield Grocer, but SGC was the rebranding. As we get into Arkansas, we go into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. We're into 8 states plus as we're growing, and we're going to continue to grow. That was the name change, and with that, we're trying to set the trend, not follow the trend.
Family-owned company.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. Roughly how many employees?
I don't have the exact. I know as far as our sales force goes, we're about 110 people that are out working in our sales force all over. That's that 4 to 8 states that we're into. That is where we're at. So growing every day. The warehouse constantly. We are a living, breathing animal 24 hours a day. There's somebody in the building, whether that's our drivers, our selectors, and a shout out to them. They have a really hard job, and there's what keeps our kitchens going, right? They're the ones that are out there making sure that we get the nutritious food to the back dock, and they do a fabulous job. But it's a living, breathing city, as you see in here. Oh, yeah. Tons of people. We're always working. Lots of things going on.
So selector, you said. So they're the ones that make sure that the things that need to get on the truck get on the truck. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're going through, and you put your order in as an operator. I'm your sales rep. We put it in on the computer. It shows up, and then they're pulling it, and they're making sure that the freezer goes in the freezer section. That we're not putting the strawberries in there. They're making sure that things are going, that they're following health code, but also that they're not stacking a 50-pound box of beef on a carton of eggs. Those are there's a lot more to it. It's kind of like imagine going to the grocery store, but with 60,000 items that you're putting in there.
You're watching the person putting stuff in a bag, and you're like, okay, don't put that on top of the bread. You're going to squish it. Or and heaven help me when I do my own, I try to not mess it up. But so much goes into this. And another thing, I could talk to you once a week, I swear. This is so stinking interesting to me. But I was looking at your social media for SGC Foodservice, like your Facebook page. And let's see, I noticed you had movie night. It sounded like Alamo Draft House. You have a walking club.
Yes.
And you do like recipe day. You do some charity work with you partner with Care to Learn. You've wrapped presents for like Boys and Girls Club. What a satisfying and fun place to spend your day.
Absolutely. And that all goes back to you were talking about that family-owned culture, that it's not manufactured. It is a wonderful place to work. I've been here almost 2 years, absolutely love it. And it's about being able to give back too, right? We're very fortunate in what we do, but we understand that there's a chance and maybe sometimes an obligation to give back to our community, and we do that. And everybody that you see do it, when they're doing the movie night or they're wrapping presents, there's always a smile on their face. It's never I don't have to, I get to type of mentality, that I get the chance to do this. We come in every day. And when you have a team that's happy, I think it shows and it breeds success.
You know, I ran into my friend John Siren when I came in,
Yeah.
and you said something, and I honestly, it just completely escaped me because God bless you. You mentioned salespeople come in and things get busy, like when you're trying to do Culinary Center. I literally texted you last night and said, can I come over? And so you have these pesky podcast people show up, but I walk in. John's in the Culinary Center, and I think you made the comment that he does C-stores?
Yeah, so fancy term for convenience stores. Yeah. So it's a big part of what we do. And you don't think about C-stores as a place to go eat. In the last few years, that's definitely changed, right? We think of Casey's Pizza, where sometimes you invite somebody, they'll order that over a Domino's because it's delicious. They do a great job. So John's our resident expert. We have lots of experts inside the field, not just chefs, but someone like John that's able to go out, find the best chicken bread or find the best pizza product that works for the region. And what works for Oklahoma might not work for Missouri. When you think about salsas or barbecue rubs, the way they eat in Kansas City may be vastly different than Oklahoma City, right? And so we have to be able to have a little bit of both for that customer that matches it. And that's where John and the rest of our specialists come in, is they're diving deeper to find out those great products. And a lot of times the customers even don't know they're out there. But you think about traveling, right? Yeah. And you pull over. I may want the breakfast burrito, but you may want a kale salad. We're seeing that in C-stores now. Yeah. We're seeing that charcuterie tray that we opened, right? We're opening it up. We have the protein packs that have salami, copa, aged white cheddar, nuts, everything that we mentioned. We can get that at our local convenience store, where we didn't do that growing up. It was all just Slurpees and candy bars. Now it's vastly different. You go in and get hummus at a convenience store.
Totally. Boiled eggs. You see a lot of boiled eggs in the convenience store. But I never thought about that. I never thought about, you're in the kitchen doing your thing, and then you've got somebody over here who looks at restaurants and menus, and then you've got somebody like John who looks at a convenience store in a completely different way than I do. Sure. Although I know when I go in there, there's going to be 4 different flavors of tea that I can really literally mix my own, and there will be not just pizza and not just candy bars.
Correct. And that's the whole team is what pulls this thing together, right? It's menu development. We have graphic artists in-house that will create your menu for you. We have a team of produce specialists, center of the plate, that's going to find the best, burger, steak, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a new trend. Beef may be high. We're going to look at chicken or pork to offset the cost. There's lots of things that we get in and work with our customers on a daily basis to give them. We're bringing the ideas, we're bringing the creative, but we're also finding things that may be cost effective for them as well, right? Because we all know that groceries have gone up, and then we have to find things that work maybe a little bit better. So that's what we do on a daily basis as far as trying to find those items that really resonate with our customers and maybe be the first ones to bring those to the table.
Well, check out their website, check out their social media, because you'll get some recipe ideas, you'll get some recipes, you'll get some hints of things that are to come. But Executive Chef Aaron Gregory, SGC Foodservice, thank you so much for spending time with me and giving us hope heading into the holidays and beyond. We can do this. And if we can't do it at home, we can find it out there, because SGC is bringing it to the table. Thank you, sir, and Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Merry Christmas to you as well, and thank you for letting me speak with you today. And as chefs say, happy hollandaise.
Very good. Ba-dum-bum. Be sure to go to AroundTheOzarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter, where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? Do you have any restaurants you'd like me to visit? Email me at joy@AroundTheOzarks.com.